I don't mean to brag, but I just got some sweet new art supplies.
This video is not sponsored by any of the companies mentioned.
Hi, Shanna Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artists at Play, and today I'm going to be playing with the classic Crayola crayons. I'm terrified, but I'm also excited. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I actually recently tried some of the Caran d'Ache Neocolor 1 crayons on my channel. I mean, they're wax pastels, but they're pretty much crayons. And that got me craving the classic Crayola, because why not? Who doesn't want the blast from the past? And I'm not the first artist to do this on YouTube. There are a few others, and Temi is one. I'm going to link her channel in the description below because she did some fantastic stuff with the Crayolas. And I'm not going to try to live up to that, but I'm going to do my best to get something that is semi-realistic, or at least looks like what I'm attempting to draw. We'll see. I'm also going to try to keep it in the kind of Crayola theme of things and use cheap paper, and I'll try not to bring in anything that is actually artist grade to help myself out. So I'm gonna use like other things that I can find around the house. I mean, I'm going back in time here. I'm going back to like being 6-year-old me or 12-year-old me. The only thing that's gonna be a little different is I might try to bring in some rubbing alcohol for blending, but again, that's, I mean, it's not technically an art supply. So, and a number 2 pencil, maybe a ballpoint pen. You know, we're going back to pre-artist supply phase Shanna. We're going back to my beginnings. And of course, I expect to struggle, so, you know, I thought it'd be fun to film so you can watch me struggle. So let's just jump into it and see what I can do. Pray for me. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do with this is decide what kind of paper I'm going to use. I picked up a couple kinds of paper when I went and picked up my new Crayolas, and I wanted to stick with the kind of non-professional brand kind of stuff to keep in line with the theme of this video. So of course I got the Crayola construction paper. Now I went to Walgreens to get this stuff because it was the place that's closest to me that has this stuff. However, it's probably cheaper at like Walmart and Amazon and things like that. But for the construction paper, for the 96 sheets, I spent $4.29. Again, it's probably cheaper somewhere else. This is the basic construction paper that we all had as children. I am curious to see how well it'll hold up. And then the other paper I got was just some regular poster board. This comes with 5 pieces, and this is the Art Skills brand. I don't know if that's like a Walgreens thing. I don't know if you can find this other places, but pretty much any kind of store like Walgreens or Walmart or CVS or any of that, they're going to have poster boards. They didn't have any plain white poster boards left that were large that I could just cut down. That probably would have been cheaper because you can get those pretty dirt cheap. Just get a large piece, cut it down to what you need. But they didn't have white, like I said, and so I ended up just grabbing this instead. And this was $2.79. Again, you could probably get it cheaper elsewhere. And then the 64 crayon colors with the sharpener because they're bougie. This is top of the line, folks. I got these for $5.99. So I am going to try to keep this just to these supplies, not bring in any professional supplies other than a few things that I have laying around the house that are not professional. I have my ballpoint pen here. I might use this to kind of use as like an engraving or indenting tool, because I like to do that to try and like keep lines that aren't, that I don't want to be colored in. So I will show you that more later in the video, but basically I do it with the pen popped in. Normally I have a wooden stylus pen for that, but we're just trying to keep it to things that we find laying around the house for this video. I didn't have any toothpicks. I was going to use that, so this is the next best thing. And then I also am going to try to bring in some rubbing alcohol and Q-tips for blending. I have no idea how any of this is going to go, but we will find out by the end of the video. Okay, so I am going to start swatching the paper, and I'm going to decide which paper I want to use for my project. Let's take a look. say swatching my paper. I mean, I'm going to swatch on the paper. I really wanted to try to get construction paper because I remember the texture being very similar to pastel paper. Here we go. Colorful, colorful, colorful. A lot thinner than I remember it being. So I'm just going to get a light color. I'll get the yellow, I guess. And let's just try some things out. One of the things I want to see, obviously, is if it's going to take any amount of layers. Oh, look at these beautiful things. The smell of childhood. Yes. Okay, I'm weird. I know. Don't judge me. Well, you can. It's fine. I don't care if you do. Okay, so let's see if we can get any layers here. Move this out of the way so it's not blocking. I feel like I'm 12 years old again. Oh, that's so pretty. Look how pretty that is. Let me grab another one. Another color. Slightly darker green. Just want to see the amount of layers that this paper can take. And I also want to see if it'll take the alcohol before I decide to do a full piece with them. Because this is bound to be an interesting experiment. And I don't want to give myself too many obstacles, because I also want to still enjoy myself while doing this. I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm doing it to begin with. I'm just kind of going darker and darker. And at some point, I am going to put these in order by rainbow, because this ain't it. I'm sorry. Even as a kid, whenever I got crayons, I was putting them in order by rainbow, because I'm not messing around with that janky color order that they just throw it in. I'm not about that randomness. Just want to see. And they do blend through burnishing on here. The thing is, I don't think this is going to be able to take any amount of moisture. So that's why my hope is to be able to use this paper, but I don't think it's going to hold up because it's so thin. Thankfully, wow, maybe the alcohol didn't seem to seep through too much, but it's weird how the crayon is kind of flaking up. So, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. But this is, I'm pretty impressed that it didn't go all the way through. And I was really worried about that. It's a possibility. It's a possibility, folks, because I think that'd be really fun to kind of stick with that. It didn't, I don't know. That held up better than I was thinking. Now, I want to try the poster board. I don't want to use the smooth side. I know that. But see, it has kind of a shiny side. I don't know if you can see any kind of glare on that at all. And then a matte side. And the matte side, it's really, really smooth. I'm worried it won't get enough layers. Yeah. No. It's smooth. It's definitely easy to get a smoothness with the crayons. However, we're not going to be able to, well, let's see. Let's see how this works. I just don't feel like the layers are going to get dark enough. Like, saturated enough. They're just kind of slick. Even on the gross hairs. Like, see how light that is compared to... It's just kind of too slick. So, I think I might go with construction paper. This is definitely stronger, but it's smoother. But a little too smooth, I think. Because I'm not going to be able to get things as dark. Like, look at this. Look how dark I can get that. And then... Okay. Construction paper it is. We are going extra bougie today, baby. This is going to be the most high-end video I have ever done. Alright, so I am probably going to switch to voiceover and speed this up. Put on... I don't know, probably some YouTube in the background, and just get my color on. And then I will come back to you after, let you know my experiences, and of course, I will talk about it through voiceover. Stay tuned, because you're about to see the best masterpiece that I have ever done on this channel, ever.
Okay, so here we are. Starting out on the drawing. Sorry, I apologize. As I mentioned, I'm going completely old school on this, so I pulled out a number 2 pencil, and I am going right in on the paper. Normally, nowadays, I would actually draw this out on a cheaper piece of paper, but the paper doesn't get much cheaper than this. And then transfer it over, but because I wanted to bring in as less, like, a small amount of tools as possible, I decided I'm just going to go right in with it, and I am going to draw right on the paper. So obviously that's what I did. I drew out this kind of janky little raspberry, and then I came in with my ballpoint pen, clicked in, like I said, and kind of used the end of it to try and score some lines into the paper in hopes that they would stay there and I could color right over it, just like a nice little imprinting. It didn't work as well as I had hoped, and I think part of it is because the paper is just not that thick. There's not as much cushion in the paper, so it worked in some places, but not in others. But you'll see down the line when I come in and do a different trick to bring those lines back out. And then I'm basically just going in and doing a bokeh background. I chose yellow as my paper because I wanted a nice sunny backdrop for this, because my reference photo is one that I took in my yard a few summers ago and it was a really sunny day, and so I thought yellow would be the perfect backdrop for this scene. There's a lot of warm colors in it, and so that helped a lot. And that's kind of a little tip for whenever you're working on a colored background. Just make sure it's something that matches the mood that you're going for, because inevitably it will show through. Even with artist grade materials, some of that background will kind of show through and set the mood for things. And the first thing that I noticed was, obviously it was difficult to get detail, but on this paper it was kind of hard to get enough layers down without them kind of flaking off. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but it was really odd. Like, sometimes I would get like a lot of layers down, and then all of a sudden a chunk of crayon would fall off. So I'm like, that's lovely, really. But later on I'll talk about a way that I use that to my advantage. And then I'm coming through with Q-tips and alcohol for the most part, trying to blend it out. And then later on, you'll see me come through with just Q-tips, because I found that once there was enough layers down, sometimes that was easier to blend. And I'm just doing a little bokeh background, nice little blurry background. And I gotta say, the black was probably the strongest crayon in there, which was good because I was able to get some contrast that I wanted. I pulled out pretty much every green that was in there to try and get this background. And I kind of brought in some white as well. And then for these little leaves that are... Leaves? These little leaves. Sorry, I'm very tired. These little leaves that are on the top of it. It was kind of weird. In my reference, I always picture them as being green. In my reference, though, it's coming from the underside and the sun's kind of shining through, and there was a lot of browns and oranges and yellows in it. Now I am starting on the raspberry itself. There's definitely a huge difference between these and the Caran d'Ache Neo Color ones that I used. I'll pop up a picture here so you can see the cherries that I drew with that. These are not as smooth to blend, they're not as pigmented, and obviously there's no light fast rating, so there's no way of knowing if they would fade or not. However, this is still a lot of fun. It took me right back to when I was a kid. And the smells, oh my gosh, the smells of the crayon and the crayons themselves and the paper. I felt like I was in elementary school again. Like, it took me back the whole time. It was really funny. So I'm just coming through and I'm trying to make it look as 3D as possible. But it's kind of difficult because really the only color that got dark enough was the black, and normally I wouldn't necessarily bring black into a piece like this, at least not for the raspberry itself, but there was no way to get a deep enough shadow without bringing the black in, so at times it felt a little too harsh for me, and I had a hard time with the white. It did not want to give me the highlights that I wanted, and I actually broke the white. That was the first one that I broke, because I was trying to cram it in there, cram it to the paper so I could get my highlights, and it didn't work and it snapped. And that part got a little bit frustrating, but at the same time, like, I didn't get too wound up about any part of this because I didn't expect it to go as well as it was already going, so I was actually happy with how things were going to begin with. So I tried not to get grumpy about things when it didn't go right. Then there's like an orange crayon there that I also broke. Trying to get those layers down, trying to burnish things. And I tried to bring less of the black in for this side. And here we go. Now I am using some tape. It's basically just some regular like masking tape. And I am putting it down and lifting. And I'll show you in real time in a minute how that looks. But I'm able to get these little details by lifting the crayon off, by taking a sharper point and coloring over the tape, and then lifting the tape up. I was able to lift layers off to get some of these details. And that was super helpful. Like, things really started to come together when I started doing that. And then if there were some that I didn't like because I couldn't really see through the tape, I just fixed it. I'm doing a little blending there. Now I'm just going back and forth to pick out those details. And so here in real time, you can see I put the tape down and I can kind of see through it enough to see where I want the line. And then this time I used my pencil. Sometimes I use the crayon, depending on how thin I wanted the line. And I just colored over it and then I lifted it up and that line was there. So that was really exciting. All right, folks, I think that I'm ready to call it finished. What do you think? I'm pretty happy with it. It was very complicated. There were only 2 casualties. I'm happy to report that I only broke 2 crayons. I didn't know what to expect going into this. I thought every crayon I touched would end up broken because I was definitely hammering down when it came to some of these layers. And yeah, so there's that. The white, I'm not very happy with. I was hoping it would be more opaque to get better highlights. Normally, I don't know, I guess I could have brought in some whiteout or something like that, but I don't have whiteout, and I really wanted to stick to as few supplies as possible. So I really only ended up bringing in, like, my number 2 pencil to do a drawing, like the outline, the preliminary outline is what I'm getting at there. And like I said, just a ballpoint pen that I had laying around the house. I brought this in to do some scraping. There's still some crayon on it. Because I am a high-class broad, and I use only the best materials on this channel. And Q-tips. I can't leave out the Q-tips and the rubbing alcohol, which were instrumental. And actually, at some points, I found that the Q-tips worked even better without the alcohol on certain layers. And then on others, The alcohol was really helpful. None of it really moved it around as much as I would have liked, but I was able to blend fairly well. There's still obviously some of that crayon texture that's to be expected, but I'm pretty happy. The thing that was kind of the most annoying was that after putting a certain amount of layers on, it would flake off the paper in certain spots. And also putting tape down did the same thing. However, as you saw, I used the tape to my advantage, and I was able to lift out certain pieces like these little things, these spurs that come out from it, and these little curlicues and these little hairs over here. And I was really happy with that aspect of it. So even though there were some challenges along the way, I was able to use some of those challenging aspects to my advantage on this. And so definitely happy about that. And the tape trick is something that I had learned, as I mentioned in my voiceover, back when I first started using colored pencil anyway. And so it was nice to have that come in handy here because it helped things pop a lot more. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you've come this far, let me know what your favorite Crayola tool is. Is it the crayons? Is it their colored pencils, their markers? You know, obviously, even if you don't use them now, what do you remember loving as a child? Just let me know in the comment section below because I'd be interested to hear. And yeah, okay, I need to step away. This is my problem, is that I can't ever step away from the artwork. Anyway, she's a little hunky chunky on this back end, but no raspberry is perfect. They're still tasty though. All right, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week. You have a great day. Bye.